Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you are well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more relationship stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too. As I always say, it hugely helps out the channel, and you can watch Reddit stories on the daily. Totally up to you though, no pressure. And let's crack on with today's first story. Now, today's first story is titled, My 23 Male Girlfriend 23 Female asked me if I would get a vasectomy, and I initially told her probably not, and now she's upset with me and is considering this in our relationship and doesn't want to talk. We're in a long distance relationship, and she asked me this out of the blue in a FaceTime call. In light of the Roe v. Wade situation happening in the US right now, I told her I honestly didn't even know what a vasectomy initially was, so she explained it to me that same call. After explaining, she asked me if I would do one, and I told her probably not, and now she's upset with me and won't reply to me. After she hung up, I went ahead and spent a few hours reading articles and blogs to educate myself about the benefits of vasectomies and the reasons to decide if it's the best choice for me. I'm much more okay with going through a procedure now after reading up about it, but I'm not 100% for doing it because of the process/cost of it, and us both talking about wanting to marry each other and have children together. I don't think it's fair of her to ask me out of the blue an important question like this and then get upset with my initial answer, because it takes many couples months and even years to discuss with each other if a vasectomy is the best option. I can understand her or any girl getting upset if their partner encourages them to tie their tubes or use birth control and not do the same thing. But I never press those ideas towards her because I know how birth control might negatively affect her. I've told her that I'd much rather choose abstinence as the first option before considered doing a vasectomy. And also because sure, a vasectomy is reversible, but also there could be implications when it won't work and could be very costly. I've sent her a long text about how I feel and how I've educated myself on it, but still need to learn more about the procedure and if it's right. I also let her know how I feel that it isn't fair for her to be upset after my initial response because something as big as this takes a lot of time to think through. She still hasn't replied to me, so I'm going to wait a little bit to see if she wants to call and talk about it after she reflects on my response. Not sure what I should say. And then we have edits and we have some updates as well. Now, this is obviously not a decision you should just be making instantly here. It is something that requires a lot of education on the matter and a lot of thought about your future as well. Yes, I've heard it can be reversed, but I've also heard people who've had complications with the reversal process. I'm not going to go too much into it because I'm not educated on it at all. I'm just going by what I've heard. But I know a few couples personally who's had vasectomies, but they found themselves at the point in life where they're 100% sure that they don't want any more children, and that's kind of just a thought process that's going on in my head at the moment. But Jazisa says, okay, from a woman, don't get a vasectomy until you know you don't want more kids. A vasectomy can be reversed in some situations, but it's not 100%. It wasn't meant as a temporary form of birth control. It's meant to be permanent. V3621 says, I don't think your girlfriend is handling this as well as she could, but one piece of advice I can give you. Don't ever give an answer when you're not informed yet. I'm sorry I can't give you an answer right now because I just learned about it and need to research to give you a fair answer. Is always an acceptable answer. It's possible your girlfriend is upset because you gave her an answer. It's hard to do when someone is expecting an answer right then and there, which is why I agree your girlfriend is being unreasonable. You have to stick to your ground and just not answer when you don't know. I hope that helps for the future. Hope your reply saying, that's also been running in my mind, and I think you're 100% right that she's upset because I gave an answer that she didn't expect initially. Chipface says, if you want kids in the future, don't get a vasectomy until you've had all the kids you want. You are supposed to treat it as a permanent procedure and not count on a reversal, which is 10 times the cost of a vasectomy and not guaranteed to work. Just take proper precautions and maybe create an emergency fund to cover the cost of an abortion if shit does happen. Zyle96 says, this is not a decision to be made because of panic. This likely decision to make abortion illegal here is scaring a lot of people. It's understandable that she'd panic, but expecting you to alter your body for her sake is unreasonable. You aren't even married. You may want children in the future. Sure, there's IVF. That's a very difficult and expensive treatment and procedure which health insurance in the US doesn't cover much of, if at all. I know, I've been through it. It's not worth losing your fertility at your age when you still want children in the future. Just like you said, you never asked her to change her body function. However, this being her concern, she should consider her own options as it is her body she's most concerned with. She can ask you what options you'd consider for your protection, but she should not get angry if she does not like your answer to whether you want to get a vasectomy. And one more from the recapitator who says this is not a decision to make lightly. Do not get one unless you're positive that you will never ever want children of your own. I got a vasectomy around that age and I don't regret it, but I was an exception. Many guys that get one so young later change their mind, and reversing one is both expensive and risky, with no guarantee that it will even work. It's frankly unreasonable of her to ask you to get one, since 1, you are young, in the best years of your dating life, and 2, you're only dating. You haven't been together for 10 years, you're not married, and what if she breaks up with you? Other women may want a guy that can give them kids. I get that tensions are high right now, but she has a very emotional response to this political hijacking of our society. But her demanding that you get a vasectomy is irrational and short-sighted. So first, OP edited the post to respond to the comments which said, edit, I appreciate all of these responses. For clarification, yes, I always use condoms, and also I don't think she intended me of doing the surgery at my age, but it was more of a hypothetical question she gave me after a TikTok she saw. I'm going to wait a little bit to see if she's ready to talk and let her know I'm there to support her and discuss the best options for us if we decide in the future to have kids together, which she wanted before. I understand her reaction is based on how scary it is for women right now in the US, and I think it's partly because she might not even have read up on vasectomies much in the first place. I'm hoping we can settle this appropriately while we both are educated enough to understand how important a decision like this can be for me. Thank you all. OP continued in their update which said, after a few days of not replying to me, she finally wanted to talk to me, and she laid the news out that she wants us to take a break indefinitely so we can both mature. I am absolutely devastated. She mentioned that she thought we butt heads too much with different viewpoints and that she wanted to break up because she was afraid we were going to resent each other and didn't want me to feel like I don't have a voice in the relationship anymore. She said if it was meant to be, then we'll find each other again. I want to clarify that in our 2-year relationship, we never argued, but we did butt heads sometimes, and when I did make her upset, I owned up to it and apologized and promised to learn from those times. The first time was when I mistakenly downplayed her family trauma and told her that her parents were just trying to look out for her. I was ignorant because we both grew up differently, and so I apologized and wanted to learn because she never told me the extent of her past family trauma until I upset her. After some time, she told me more about how the extent of that trauma was, and I felt so guilty and sorry for what I did. I made a promise to always comfort her and support her because of it, while she promised to communicate better to me when she was upset. Another time was this past December when she thought that I was getting too comfortable in the relationship and she wanted me to fight for her. She didn't tell me until one day she ignored me for a few days, and I tried to ask her if she was okay and asked how I could help her. I'm the type of person who has that let's fix it now mentality, while she's the type of person to wait some time until she's ready to fix it. I understood her coping style, and so I gave her time. When she was ready to talk again, we both apologized to each other, and she agreed to fix her communication with me again, and I promised to take more initiative in our relationship. Talking to other friends who were in relationships, they assured me it was okay for couples to have disagreements with each other because we can't read each other's minds. But the best thing to learn from those disagreements is to communicate and set those expectations, as well as understand each other's different viewpoints so that you both learn. I spent so much time trying to educate myself and would always make sure that she was okay. But now with this news of wanting to take an indefinite break and practically break up, I feel so guilty that she didn't trust me enough to talk to me about what she wanted me to be, because I loved her for who she was. I feel hurt that I've worked so hard to learn and better myself and check up on her to make her happy after our talk, and it still wasn't enough to keep us together. She wanted me to fight for her, and I put so much aside to fight for her, but Her giving up fighting for me hurt so much. Maybe I should have thought of those as flags in our relationship because I didn't know the severity of her feeling that way, and we both had different thoughts on how the well-being of our relationship actually was. I thought we were doing great and we were making our relationship stronger, but for her, this was the most recent event that happened to be her last straw. I understand this is the best for us, that we can both reflect and reevaluate on what we strive for in our own lives, especially her. Since she is still trying to get into grad school and I've already graduated and I'm working full time. I want to respect her boundaries and want what she wants because I don't want her unhappy. But it's just so fresh and it hurts, knowing that you've worked so hard to learn and take care of someone to make sure they were okay. And then when you need them the most, they decide to leave you without asking if you are okay. Because right now, I'm not. My last message to her after we talked was that I told her I will always support her and I will always be there if she needed anything. I wish she asked me what I needed because I want to tell her that I need her. I've been talking to close friends and family, which I appreciate having that support system to rely on for my mental well-being. Some recommended me to wait a few months and reach out to her again to see what happens or at least get some closure. When is a good time to reach back out? Also, any advice on how to cope and move on is appreciated. My friends also recommended me to work out and do other things that allow myself to grow and accept who I am. Honestly, even just typing this post out has helped me. I appreciate all the advice given in my previous post and this one. OP continued in their final update, which says, well, now, after a couple of months of the break, she reached out to me a few weeks ago to say that she doesn't want to be together. I was sad hearing the news, but during that break, I already prepared myself to move on anyways. We both mutually agreed to not be friends anymore and to unfollow each other on social media, as well as ship some personal belongings back to one another. I've come to realize that we were incompatible on our family values and we were both in different stages of our lives since she was trying to get into grad school while I'm working full-time as IT/web developer. She was also a bit manipulative and always talked bad about people she didn't like. I'm not perfect either, as I made some mistakes in our relationship too. Honestly though, I'm in a so much better state of mind now that we've broken up. I followed advice from friends, a relationship counselor, and those of you who gave some good reasoning on my previous posts. I've been working out consistently. I've been enjoying my time with friends and family. I've been researching deep into getting a new car in this crazy market, which is exciting. Some of my girlfriends have also hit me up to hang out at boba shops. I'm even trying to plan a fun road trip to try out some good Korean food and desserts with one of them, so we'll see how that ends up turning into. I'm just happy I'm able to get over my ex a lot easier than I expected, and I want to thank those of you on Reddit who helped enlighten me on my own situation. But now I'm going to turn this one to you guys. What do you guys make of this situation? How would you have dealt with it? What do you think about the final conclusion of the story? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and let's move on to another one. And our next story comes from a throwaway account who asks, am I the arsehole for making my boyfriend eat fast food for a week? My boyfriend grew up in a house that valued outdated gender norms. Women were always responsible for cooking and cleaning, so he didn't learn how to do any of that for most of his life. That is, until he moved in with me after college. He's been good about a few things. He doesn't mind helping with the dishes or handling the laundry, but the one thing I can't seem to get him to do is learn how to cook. The only thing he can do is microwave frozen meals. I've been trying to teach him the basics, but it seems like it goes through one ear and just comes out the other. He still can't turn on the oven or use the stove without help. The toaster is too complicated for him to use, he claims. Doesn't know how to boil eggs, cook rice, or even how to measure out ingredients using cups. I just don't understand why he can't grasp this but is fine with other things. Here's the part where I may be an arsehole. I went on a trip 2 weeks ago for work. I'm in charge of buying groceries. We have separate accounts, and I realized how expensive his frozen meals actually are. $3 to $4 each. I said screw it and bought the easiest ingredients I could find for a lot cheaper for him to cook on his own. He doesn't like leftovers, so me cooking ahead for him was out. Before I left, I sat him down once again and gave him a very long lesson on using the oven, toaster, and stove, as well as how to boil/scramble eggs, toast a piece of toast, boil rice and noodles, and heat up pasta sauce. I also taught him how to pan fry things like onions and other veggies, and how to tell when they were ready, in case he didn't want to cook both lunch and dinner. I also bought things to make salads and fixings for sandwiches. I come back a week later and he is angry. He claims I practically left him to starve and how I know he has trouble cooking. I retaliate, saying I showed him what to do, and I get the whole range of excuses. Setting the oven/stove temp is too complicated. He cut his finger chopping onions and couldn't chop anything until his cut healed. He only likes a salad kit, so everything is balanced. Apparently, he only ate sandwiches, canned food, and fast food for a week. He thinks I'm a major arsehole for not telling him I'm not buying his frozen meals, and leaving him alone to fend for himself. On one hand, I do think it was shitty of me not to tell him I didn't buy his meals, and as someone who grew up in a home pretty much only boiled hot dogs and veggies and only properly learned how to cook after moving out, I do feel for him. But at the same time, after a few months of not getting the simplest concepts, I'm feeling particularly justified in my actions. So Reddit, am I the arsehole? Now, as I scrolled down to the bottom of that story, I already saw the words in the comments, weaponized incompetence, and that's the way it kind of felt to me. And it was like in the first paragraph that jumped out to me. The toaster is too complicated for him to use, he claims. Can't use a measuring cup. I mean, come on now. It just feels like he's making excuse after excuse. Like Opie said, you know, he cut his finger chopping onions and couldn't chop anything else until it was healed. I guess the guy doesn't know how to use a plaster either. But let's go into those comments. We're going to get torn apart. Marks and Mill says, not the arsehole. You should search weaponized incompetence. He's not unable to complete these tasks. He's hoping you'll get tired of asking him to improve himself and become a 50s housewife for him. It was not shitty of you to not buy frozen meals for him. Is he also incapable of shopping? He managed to leave the house to buy fast food, or did he have that delivered? This man is not mature enough for a relationship. He wants you to be his mother. Mr. Bryan's replies to that one saying, you're absolutely right about weaponized incompetence. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume he knows how to use a computer, an Xbox, a smart TV, and can use Google Maps for directions. He's not mentally disabled. He can figure out how to turn on an oven or fry food in a pan. If OP has some reason she wants to continue to date this person, she should refuse to grocery shop or cook. Just flat out refuse. Let him starve until he can bring himself to figure out turning on the stove. Nearby says, not the arsehole. Weaponized incompetence is a real thing. Can't use a toaster. Can't boil an egg or noodles. Get a life, mate. He needs to grow up and stop being such a child. If he wants frozen meals, let him buy them out of his own money. Edit to add, this is your future. What is he going to be like if you two decide to have kids? I'll bet changing a nappy is going to be way too hard, or prepping a bottle, if that's how you choose to feed. You both need to sit down and have an adult conversation because this is ridiculous. And that's one of the things that these stories have trained me to think over time, is like when they get into situations like these, is what is the future like for this person if it continues down the same path? It doesn't look like a good one, does it? But Fizzle Fat says, you may be in charge of buying groceries, but when he realized he didn't have any frozen meals, why didn't he go buy some or anything else his little heart desires? Your boyfriend doesn't want to learn how to prepare the simplest food. Not a meal, just food for himself. Why? I don't know or care, but I don't think you can teach anyone about cooking who thinks a toaster is too complicated. Not the arsehole. I suggest accepting him as he is or move out and let him fend for himself. Edit, by the way, is his thinking always this rigid? Does he ever have a plan B that he can execute if things aren't as he expects? And one more from Jazz Like Humor, who says, not the arsehole. If he wants frozen meals, he can go to the store and buy them himself or order them. Any adult should be able to feed themselves for a week. He's not helpless. He just prefers to dump the work on you. He sounds like someone who needs to live on his own for 5 years to develop the skills needed to be a decent partner in a relationship. Now, what do you guys make of this one? Would this be a complete deal breaker for you? Is there a way to fix it? Do you think he will ever listen? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for spending your time with me today, getting involved in the story, showing your love to me, one another, the stories as well. It means the absolute world. And don't forget, at the end of the video, there will be a couple of playlists there that you can click on, and it'll scroll through all the videos for you. So whatever you're up to right now, if you're drawing, running, driving, whatever you're up to, don't forget to let me know what you're up to as well. Always love to know. The playlist is there for you. And just a huge thank you for getting involved once again, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care and much love.
Wake up, get up, stretch my legs, eat some breakfast, milk and eggs, brush my teeth up, wash my face, throw my clothes on, start my day. Wake up, I can smell the smoke from the bacon. Let's go, see the sun shining from the windows. Okay, I know that today